Hey there. It's another beautiful day. Let's watch some stuff.
Some people do stupid things. Don't do stupid things. You are about to hear my opinion. Do your own research.
So, if this story doesn't make you question everything that is wrong with society and everything that is going wrong with society, take a listen to this. A Harvard Medical School morgue manager, that's the person that's in charge of the body parts and bodies that they bring in so they can do medical examinations on, has been stealing the body parts and selling them on the black market. You heard what I just said. Stealing the body parts and selling them on the black market. Take a look at this. Meet 57-year-old Cedric Lodge, the former Harvard School medical morgue director. He pled guilty to stealing and selling body parts on the black market. That included brains, human heads, and other body parts. This all took place between the years 2018 and 2020. The craziest part about all of this is that if he didn't get caught, can you imagine? He'd still be doing this. Cedric is currently facing up to 10 years in prison. Something that comes to mind to me is, isn't there any accountability for the inventory that they receive and what it is actually used for? Nobody questioned this?
I'd love to see the investigation into this. Like, did they find out how many body parts were sold and where they were sold? Are they going to try and track these body parts down? Because I'm sure that the family members of these individuals who had donated their bodies to science might not be very happy that their family members' body parts have been, like, taken other places.
Hold on just a second. Hey, I don't want to brag or anything, but I was alive whenever the scientists told us that the brown paper bags at the grocery store were going to cause the extinction of all the trees on planet Earth, and plastic bags were going to save the trees and be better for the environment. Okay, I'm back.
Show of hands. Who else was around when that happened? Yeah, I remember that very clearly, and I bet it had something to do with like plastic manufacturing companies like lobbying to get the paper bags taken out and plastic put in. You never know.
Just when you think the news for United Health Group can't get worse, well, it can. They used cash incentives to incentivize nursing homes not to refer patients to the hospital when they needed it, including DNRs on people who actually wanted to live.
All right, while that is absolutely despicable, I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second because they're saying that they don't want these individuals transported from the nursing facility to the hospital to receive treatment, but that would make them potentially expire, which means no more money for the health group. But at the same time, these people are probably on like Medicaid, so they're probably not going to be getting that much money because it's government health care versus paying out of pocket. Oh, that's disgusting. Oh my gosh. Okay, that is disgusting.
So NASA has this thing called the EASY system that tracks any kind of space anomaly that could wipe out our power grid. Yeah, anything that could damage the power grid, temporarily take it out, or wipe it out in general. So NASA is using this to look at a whole bunch of stuff because there's a lot of different threats to the power grid. I mean, we hear about solar storms all the time, and that could happen, although they bring it up like once a month and it hasn't happened yet. The real problem is, the power grid, at least in the US, is all above ground. So all this weird like radiation or cosmic storms could affect it. And this EASY system, which you can read about it right there, isn't just looking at the solar storms, but it's looking at other various things from space, things I never heard of, and I'm wearing a cheese head, so I know stuff. Now, I'm not telling you about this to freak out, because I don't think anything's going to happen, and even if it did, there's nothing we can do about it. The thing is, whenever I see a story like this, I always wonder, in the brain, Why are they telling us this now? Maybe it's just a coincidence. Maybe it's to brace us for something in the future. Or maybe, who knows? Okay, Booshkies, I just wanted to share that with you. Shabadoo!
Shabadoo, Joe. And my response to that is, well, at least they're like realizing, okay, we could potentially lose all of our power if, something happens because it's that easy. It's like super accessible. But they're like checking stuff out to make sure that this is not going to happen. Speaking of, we had another solar flare with like Aurora Borealis going way far south over the weekend. Did anybody see that? Because I totally didn't. I didn't even know about it until it already had happened.
Look at how many members of Congress outperformed him, and not by 5%, not by 6 or 7 or 10, by 40, 50, 60, 70, up to 149% annual returns. Warren Buffett has been doing this for 60 years. He's never had 149% year. He's never had 105%. He's never. And meanwhile, we have half a dozen members of Congress buying stocks on their cell phones sporadically, outperforming the best year in the history of the best investor who's ever lived. It's like, we don't need Murder, She Wrote to crack this thing open. Clearly, they are cheating this thing.
Absolutely. Congress is a huge money-making scheme for all of these individuals, and the longer they stay there, the more wealthy they become. And it's because they have all this insider information. There needs to be laws that stops them from doing this because they make $200 and something thousand a year, yet they're worth like tens of millions of dollars, which is baloney because they can lobby all these other people to be like, hey, get this put in my bill and give me some money and, tell me about this particular stock. And it's absolutely disgusting. There should be no insider trading and they should have a term limit. And I think that needs to happen because this is just getting out of hand.
Right now, this is happening in a lot of countries around the world, but it's planned to happen in all countries around the world. Check this out.
The UK recently completed a carbon credit system trial that sets a daily allowance for each person, a literal cap on your ability to travel, purchase food, clothing, and even heat your home, all rationed under the guise of saving the planet. Your daily carbon limit is capped at 40 kilograms of CO2, with food restricted to just 4 kilograms. So how does this translate to actual food? Well, according to the report, a packet of cheese accounts for 1.1 kilograms of CO2, over 25% of your daily allowance. Red meat? Forget it. If you spent your entire 4 kg allowance on steak, you'd get around 8 ounces of meat. While meat and dairy products have the highest carbon footprints, 2 slices of bread would account for just 3%, while a can of Coke just 4%. So basically, diabetes is on the menu. But don't worry, Big Pharma will have you covered because medications and healthcare products will not be factored into your daily carbon limit. But here's where things get terrifying. They're not just suggesting it, they're testing it. Food manufacturers are already slapping carbon labels on their products. And let's not forget the food supply chain either. These policies directly threaten local farmers and producers as red meat gets penalized heavily, while synthetic lab-grown meat is being propped up as a solution.
Now, the problem is, if people knew the truth about where all these agendas are going, they would vehemently resist it. But you can barely talk about it on social media without getting the video, etc., flagged or censored in some way.
It's all coming together. So they started cracking down on people who said stuff that is counter to the government and started putting them in jail. And then it just scares all of the people into, I will comply, right? Now people are afraid to say boo. And then they start implementing this crap. It's all 15-minute cities, World Economic Forum, New World Order crap. Oh my gosh. Is that actually happening? My folks in the UK, let me know in the comments if that's really happening somewhere because that's absolutely insane. Anybody else got anything to say in the comments, please do. And while you're there, do me a favor, hit that like button, consider subscribing, and don't become a robot.
Did you know that one of the best ways to lose your memory early is to eat a low-fat diet and take cholesterol-lowering drugs? The elderly with the lowest cholesterol levels have the shortest lives, and this has been proven in many research studies. Those with cholesterols of under 160, which would make your doctor very happy, have a large increase in death from cancer and from all-cause mortality. Did you know that as of 2015, the United States Department of Agriculture, with agreement from both the American Heart Association and the American College of Cardiology, stated that research clearly shows that dietary cholesterol has no harmful effects and should no longer be counted or limited in any way?
All right, so my conspiracy brain is like full steam ahead on this one. And I agree with what he's saying because I know that the fats are good for your body. Cholesterol is good for the myelin sheath in your brain, which keeps your brain healthy because your brain is cholesterol and you need that stuff, right? To keep your memory good and not have Alzheimer's, not have dementia. But these folks in the UK, if they are actually doing this little test thing with the carbon yada yada, they're not going to be able to get access to meat because it has a high carbon footprint, but you're not going to be able to get all that healthy protein and fat for your brain, which causes medical issues to skyrocket, which makes more money for the pharmaceutical companies. And then individuals do end up passing away after being on a lot of expensive medications for a very long time, which is kind of part of the depopulation plan. So, it's depopulation under the guise of reducing CO2 emissions. How absolutely disgusting. Oh my goodness.
Old words we still use today and where they originated from. During the Victorian times, the lowest form of accommodation you could pay for was access to a rope to hang over so that you wouldn't have to sleep on the floor. This form of accommodation was usually taken up by stumbling drunk people. This is where the saying hung over came from. Also in the Victorian era, a landowner named Captain Charles Boycott tried to evict poor tenant farmers from the houses they were living in. In response, the locals came together and refused to deal with him at all. No labor, no service, nothing. The newspapers picked up on this story, and soon, to boycott someone meant to cut them off completely. The word Bluetooth originated in the 10th century, as it was a nickname for a Danish king named Harald Bluetooth Gormson. He united Denmark and Norway, just as Bluetooth unites devices. The crazy thing is, the Bluetooth logo combines old Nordic letters representing H and B. Back in the late 1800s, British sailors would spend weeks, sometimes months, at sea, battling rough waters and isolation. Over time, the long voyages wore them down, and those who grew irritable or short-tempered were nicknamed salty. These grumpy sailors gave rise to the term we still use today. When someone's clearly moody or bitter, we say they're being salty.
I love learning where commonplace words came from. I had no idea that's what hungover meant, because you like hang over the rope because you all jacked up. That's interesting.
It all started on August 19th, 1953, the day America learned it could topple a government from behind a desk, the day the CIA became kingmakers, and democracy became a lever to be pulled or pushed according to the interests of empire. Tehran. The morning sun bled through the smog-choked streets. People gathered at markets, children played by crumbling fountains. Life moved, unaware that its course was already written, not in Farsi but in English. At the center of it all was Mohammad Mossadegh, a democratically elected prime minister, a man who defied the blueprint. He nationalized Iran's oil fields, took back control from British petroleum. The wealth that had been siphoned out for decades, he returned to his people. And for that, he was marked, targeted by men in suits thousands of miles away. They called it Operation Ajax. It was the first time the CIA had overthrown a foreign government. Not with tanks, not with bombs, but with bribes, whispers, and ink on paper. They paid mobs to riot. They planted stories in newspaper. They turned the streets of Tehran into a stage, and chaos became the main act. August 19th was the grand finale. Shah supporters, armed and emboldened, stormed the capital. Buildings burned, streets choked with smoke and broken glass. Mossadegh's government collapsed. He was dragged from his office, convicted of treason in his own land, not because he was corrupt, not because he was cruel, but because he dared to put his country first. The Shah returned, not as a leader, but as a puppet, his strings pulled from Washington and London. For 25 more years, he ruled with an iron grip, one held steady by American dollars and British interests. It was the first time the CIA realized it could unmake a nation without a single soldier stepping foot on its soil. But it wouldn't be the last. Chile, Guatemala, Congo, they'll tell you it's about democracy, but it's always been about power. The real question is, how much longer can that power hold before the tables turn?
I seriously doubt that was the first time the CIA did something like that. I'm not smart enough to pull up an actual example of it right now, but I'm sure it's not the first time, and it definitely won't be the last. But yeah, how much longer can this go on?
President Tom Fitton speaking out on new damning documents showing the Obama-era FDA purchased fetal body parts. Here's One America's John Hines.
As the president of Judicial Watch, can you comment on reports of records that you have received from the Obama administration FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, of communications and contracts with a human fetal tissue provider that seems to show the FDA was buying, quote, intact calvarium baby skulls, 18 to 24 weeks, for $515 per skull? What do you make of this apparent sale of fetal body parts to the FDA?
Well, it ought to cause both moral and legal outrage on the part of United States citizens and taxpayers, that their tax dollars are being used to purchase basically the dead bodies of unborn human beings. They divvy up their bodies, they sell their heads, they sell their livers, they sell other aspects of their body, and you see the price list.
Another interesting bit of information you uncovered, also stating here, documents, quote, documents previously uncovered in this lawsuit, according to your press release, that the federal government demanded the purchased fetal organs be, quote, fresh, never frozen. What do you make of that?
Well, if you want to, I don't know how any normal person could read that and not be horrified. They wanted the organs shipped on dry ice. This is awful stuff, and it highlights the humanity.
But it's actually happening.
Yeah, and it highlights the, you know, these are organs. This isn't, oh, a clump of cells. These are organs. These are baby skulls up to 24 weeks gestation. So these are, there's no doubt that any normal person would call these a human being. And indeed, their organs are being sold, chopped up and sold. And, you know, we have other documents in another lawsuit that we filed on behalf of the Center for Medical Progress that showed a massive operation in the University of Pittsburgh, again, funded with our tax dollars. Fauci's agency was involved in it as well. So Fauci should be asked about his agency support, in addition to gain-of-function research, chopping up organs. It was a fetal organ chop shop.
You filed a Freedom of Information request with the FDA, the agencies in charge here. Of course, they did not respond to providing this information. You wanted to find out whether they were selling body parts or buying body parts.
We wanted the details, right.
And a judge granted you, I guess, discovery, granted you, you said that you could get the information, the redactions. There were redactions. You got those redactions taken away. You got the information, and the information you found reveals that the FDA was buying human body parts, fetal tissue, from a fetal tissue provider, and including human heads, which they were paying $515 to procure. Is that?
You know, as I recall it, the government wanted to withhold some of the prices they were paying for the organs and seemingly dismembered heads of unborn human beings. And the court said, you can't do that. And we have a separate lawsuit that involves NIH and NIAID, the Fauci agency, that showed they were having almost a one-shop, as I said, you know, a one-stop shop operation at the University of Pittsburgh. And the documents raise questions about whether the aborted human beings were still alive when the organs were taken from them. The Obama administration obviously was involved in this. The Trump administration figured out what was happening and shut it down. But now it's reported that the Biden administration is prepared to open up the spigot again to fund this sort of barbarism.
What should someone think about this if they're learning about this for the first time? It just seems like it's sort of jaw-dropping, don't you think?
You know, John, I've been doing this work at Judicial Watch for 23 years. These are the worst documents about government conduct I've ever seen in my life. It's a barbarism that you know, we should all be terribly concerned about, and it should be a priority in terms of investigating how this is being done, why it was done, whether it violated the law, and making sure it stops.
Tom Fitton, president of Judicial Watch, thank you very much for talking to us on One American News, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Now, this is a real double-edged sword for me, because I believe that science is very important, and there are certain things that are necessary for certain types of sciences, to be done. Now, I don't know the laws around that, but I do know that during the Obama administration, Roe v. Wade was perfectly intact, and that was a means to an end, right? That's the supply right there. That's disgusting. That's unfortunate. It's sad. I don't like it. But neither here nor there. It was available. And then Trump was like, no, give the power to the states. And then it's suddenly available in certain places. But he's like, stop doing that. So maybe those sciences were no longer being done. And then Biden was like, hey, start doing it again. And then I don't know if Trump pulled it back again. But the fact of the matter is, these things are needed in order to explore certain sciences for these things, right? I hope that makes sense. But at the same time, I'm not a huge fan of it happening at all. But at the same time, these things are needed in order for these sciences to happen. Yeah, I'm just going to keep repeating myself because, like I said, double-edged sword.
Today's question, what's your college major? Gender and pronoun mechanics, podcast management, millennial studies. My major is protest administration, adult content entrepreneurship, vape shop economics. I'm going for bioengineered nutrition, video game streaming operations, biohackology, public cancellation policy, therapist assistant, mobile rideshare and food delivery logistics, digital screen behavior psychiatrist. I'm going for digital tipping ethics, dating app programmer. My major is sports betting education, Photoshop and filter engineer. My major is digital political propaganda design. I just switched my major to common sense preservation, inclusive fashion design, pickleball marketing, AI and human relations. I'm going for pharmaceutical finance. My major is virtual sociology, Gen Z linguistics. That's no cap. Misinformation analyst. So my major is sex robot technician.
Stuff relocation specialist and administrative professional. I answer phones and I lift stuff. And I didn't have to go to school for it. On that note, I'm going to call it. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. If you haven't already, please hit that like button, consider subscribing, and then come on back because we're going to watch some new stuff. I'll say different things. And it's going to be fantastic. Until then, have a wonderful day.
Если, блядь, идиоты!